The black pill is the modern man's doomer ideology. It says masculinity is basically an unchangeable stat sheet: looks, height, money, genetics. If you don't spawn with the right build, it's over. And once you believe that, you stop acting. You stop risking, you stop becoming. But here's the deeper layer most people miss. The black pill is not just pessimism, it's a reaction to how gender works in public, because masculinity is not only something you are, it's something you're constantly expected to perform. Gender theory has this idea that gender is performed through repeated behaviors: style, speech, posture, what you pursue, what you avoid, what you're allowed to care about. People read you like a social resume. And masculinity, especially, gets policed hard. The rules are loud but unspoken. Be confident but not emotional. Be strong but not trying too hard. Be successful but pretend it's effortless. Don't be too soft. Don't be too expressive. Don't be too weird. And if you break those rules without social proof, you get punished. That punishment is why Blackpill takes root. A lot of men feel like they can't win the performance, so they flip the board. They decide the whole system is rigged. It's a defensive move. If the game is unfair, you never have to face the fear of trying and still being rejected. Now contrast that with UFC fighters. MMA is seen as hyper-masculine, but it's also one of the most publicly vulnerable things a man can do. You can get embarrassed on camera, you can get dominated, you can gas out, you can get dropped, you can tap, you can lose in a way that rewrites your social standing overnight. That's why the cage is such an intense gender arena. It's not just sport, it's masculinity under a spotlight. And this is where the key idea comes in. Fighters earn something the average man rarely gets. They earn masculine capital. Masculine capital is basically social permission. Once you have it, you can spend it. And UFC fighters get it the hard way, through competence, risk, discipline, and repeated public proof. They don't get to claim manhood by talking. They have to demonstrate it, over and over. That's why you'll see fighters who can express themselves in ways society might clown a regular dude for. They can be stylish, they can be artsy, they can be playful, they can be emotional, they can be spiritual, they can be soft-spoken, they can dress different, they can have interests that don't fit the traditional tough guy template. And people let them, because once you have proof, the performance becomes optional. That's the paradox. The more you prove your masculinity in the most stereotypically masculine arena, the more freedom you have to bend the stereotype. People talk about Payton Talbott in this lane for a reason. Fighters like that show you don't have to cosplay the same tough guy personality to be respected. If you show up, fight, win, and keep leveling up, you can express your masculinity in your own dialect. You don't have to speak in the default voice pack. And here's the even more interesting part. MMA is gender-affirming for men in a way that's almost ritualistic. It's like a modern rite of passage. Training is discipline. Weight cuts are sacrifice. Sparring is vulnerability. Fighting is public accountability. Win or lose, you chose the hardest arena and you were willing to be seen. But it can also feel emasculating in the moment, because losing is humiliating, getting controlled is humiliating, tapping is humiliating to the ego, getting hurt is humbling. The cage forces you to confront the parts of masculinity that are performative, the bravado, the facade, the I'm him talk. It strips you down to what's real. And that's why fighters often end up with a healthier relationship to masculinity than the online masculinity economy. Online masculinity is often all performance, status without substance, domination fantasies, alpha roleplay, aesthetic masculinity. The black pill is the darkest version of that, where the performance fails, so you decide nothing matters. But in MMA, performance gets audited. You can't fake cardio. You can't fake toughness. You can't fake skill. You can't fake composure under pressure. So when a fighter expresses themselves differently, it doesn't read as weakness. It reads as earned freedom. That's the lesson for the modern man, even if you never want to fight. If you base your identity on external approval, you become fragile. You start living like masculinity is something people give you, something you can lose at any moment. That's why so many men become bitter, anxious, and obsessed with how they're perceived. But if you build masculinity as a byproduct of competence and integrity, it becomes internal. You don't need to perform as hard because you trust yourself. You have receipts. Find a cage in your own life. Not violence. A craft. A discipline. A standard. Something that forces growth and doesn't care